So imagine standing in front of a living, breathing antique, a multi-million-dollar masterpiece. It was literally planted before the Renaissance even began.
Right, and it requires centuries of daily, unbroken human attention just to, stay alive.
It's just wild to think about. Anyway, welcome to the Real Japan Podcast. If you are joining us today, we are taking you completely off the typical bustling tourist circuit of Tokyo.
Yeah, we're stepping way away from the neon-soaked streets of Shinjuku and that absolute beautiful chaos of Metropolis.
Exactly. We're transporting you into a serene botanical sanctuary right in the middle of Tokyo's Itogawa Ward. I'm talking about the legendary Shunkaen Bonsai Museum.
And we are not just taking you on a passive audio tour today either.
No, definitely not. We are exploring an exclusive 90-minute bonsai workshop where you can actually shape living art alongside world masters.
But before we put our hands in the soil, make sure to visit the link in the description for the complete guide.
Yes, crucial point. That guide includes links to book all the things we are mentioning today, and you will definitely want to stay with us until the very end.
Right. The geographic and psychological shift is just immediate. You take this quick train ride from the relentless pace of central Tokyo into Edogawa Ward, and suddenly
You're just walking into these immaculate sunlit courtyard gardens.
Exactly. You are entirely surrounded by history.
I kept thinking about this space as a museum, which, is in the name, but my mind goes to something like the Louvre in Paris.
Okay, yeah, I see where you're going.
Right. Like you walk past the velvet ropes and look at the Mona Lisa.
Mm.
But imagine if the art in the Louvre required generations of curators to continually paint it and water it and prune it just to preserve its vigor.
That is a great analogy. The Shunkaen Bonsai Museum houses historic miniature trees, and some of them are over 800 years old.
800 years?
Yeah, literally multi-million-dollar assets sitting right there on wooden benches in the sunlight.
Which is just mind-blowing.
It really is. But that is the core distinction between static art and horticultural art. A painting is finished the moment the paint dries.
Right.
But a bonsai is never finished. It's a living, breathing collaboration between a human being and nature that spans centuries. The master who started an 800-year-old Japanese black pine has been gone for hundreds of years.
So they're basically passing the baton.
Exactly. The museum's founder, the globally renowned master Kunio Kobayashi, and his current apprentices, they're simply the modern caretakers in a very long lineage.
Mm-hmm. And from what I understand, Master Kobayashi has dedicated his entire existence to this art form. He's won the most prestigious awards in the world.
Oh, definitely. And his apprentices live right there on the grounds. They work grueling hours, constantly monitoring the moisture levels, the sunlight, the health of every single needle and leaf.
Which makes the setup for international visitors even more incredible. You aren't just walking through those courtyards staring at the trees.
Right. It's not a spectator sport.
Exactly. The true magic of this experience is that you actually get to touch the art. You are engaging in a hands-on horticultural interaction with full English interpreter support included.
Which is completely vital.
Oh, 100%. Because you are diving into some incredibly dense technical and philosophical concepts.
For sure. So once you have absorbed the sheer gravity of these historic trees, the 90-minute workshop begins its practical phase.
Right. You're seated at a workbench with your own living specimen.
And the first hands-on step the masters introduce is structural pruning mechanics. But before a single cut is made, you have to determine the orientation of the tree.
Wait, what do you mean?
You have to find the front.
Okay, when I first heard about locating a tree's front, I thought of it like, finding a face on a statue.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because I assumed that in the wild, a tree just grows in 360 degrees, responding somewhat chaotically to wherever the light is strongest or where it has room to expand.
Right, it's completely opportunistic in nature.
But in this setting, a bonsai is a composed piece of art meant to be viewed from a primary vantage point, almost like a stage play.
That is the perfect way to look at it. Locating the front means finding the specific angle where the tree's architecture shows the most character and drama.
So what are you actually looking for?
Well, the masters will guide your eyes down to the very base of the trunk, where the roots grip the soil. It's a feature called the nabari, or root flare.
Nabari.
Yeah. A strong nabari gives the tree a sense of visual stability. It makes it look like an ancient giant clinging to a mountainside.
Oh, wow, that's really poetic.
It is. And from there, you follow the trunk line upward, looking for the most elegant taper and movement. You're searching for the optimal viewing angle that tells the best story of that tree's struggle and survival.
I can definitely see how analyzing the trunk line sets up the rest of the work. But, I have to say, there is a real psychological weight to making that first cut.
Oh, it's terrifying for a beginner.
Right. You're altering a piece of living history. You've got these incredibly sharp professional bonsai shears in your hand. How does the workshop prepare you mentally for that responsibility before you even, pick up the tools and start removing branches? How do you even know what constitutes excess?
Well, they start by shifting your perspective from what you are removing to what you are revealing. The cut is entirely informed by the guiding spiritual philosophy of wabi-sabi.
Wabi-sabi.
Yeah, this is not Western topiary work. You aren't taking a pair of shears and trimming a hedge into a perfect symmetrical sphere or a geometric cone.
Right. No mall parking lot bushes here.
Exactly. Wabi-sabi is an ancient Japanese aesthetic centered on the acceptance of transience, imperfection, and the natural cycle of growth and decay.
So it's really about letting go of this manufactured idea of perfection.
Yes, exactly.
Because in Western art, we often try to fill every single corner of the canvas. But my understanding of traditional Japanese aesthetics is that the empty space is just as important as the object itself.
Spot on. That's the concept of ma, or negative space. By removing the cluttered excess growth and carefully stripping away dead wood, you're opening up clean, empty spaces between the branches.
Oh, I see.
You're allowing the birds to fly through, so to speak. The masters teach you that perfect symmetry looks artificial, as if the tree was stamped out in a factory.
Yeah, nature isn't symmetrical.
Right. Asymmetry reflects nature. It reflects seasonal balance. Through these highly calculated cuts, you clarify the tree's natural silhouette to showcase the epic passage of time.
And, there was real biology behind those cuts, too.
Oh, absolutely.
When you use those shears to snip off an excess branch or trim back the apex of the tree, you are actually manipulating the tree's hormones.
Yes, the auxin hormone.
Right. Trees naturally want to grow straight up toward the sun, driven by auxin, which concentrates at the highest growing tips. When you cut that tip away to create your negative space, the auxin redistributes to the lower, dormant buds.
Which is fascinating.
It really is. So your pruning is literally forcing the tree to grow denser foliage lower down, which gives it that ancient miniature appearance.
That biological manipulation is precisely what allows the aesthetic vision to take physical form. You're honoring the tree by revealing its struggle while simultaneously triggering its natural survival mechanisms to create tighter, more refined growth.
It almost sounds like a meditation.
It really is. The act of pruning becomes a deeply meditative practice. You are learning to look at the chaotic foliage and visualize the essential framework hiding underneath a miniature representation of a weathered giant.
Okay, before we move from the philosophy of pruning to the actual engineering of shaping the wood, I want to quickly drop a reminder.
Go for it.
If you are visualizing yourself sitting at that workbench right now, analyzing the root flare and holding those shears, you must visit the link in the description for the complete guide to book this exact workshop for your next trip.
Having that resource open is going to be incredibly helpful for your planning.
Yes, absolutely. So we've removed the excess. What happens next?
Well, once you've established that negative space through pruning, you transition into the second major technical skill taught in the masterclass. You move from the removal of excess to the mechanics of time.
The mechanics of time. I like that.
Yeah, and that is achieved through tension wiring.
Right, this is where we get into the structural engineering of living wood. I was actually looking into tension wiring, and it seems to function almost like orthopedic braces for the tree.
That's a really good way to describe it.
You're applying specialized aluminum training wire directly to the flexible branches to slowly force a new alignment.
With one major difference, though.
What's that?
Well, orthodontics or medical braces aim for perfect symmetrical alignment, right?
Yeah.
But in bonsai, the artist is using the wire to engineer the look of natural struggle. Think about a mature coniferous tree growing high up in the alpine mountains. It does not grow perfectly straight.
No, it's constantly battered by relentless prevailing winds.
Exactly. Heavy winter snowpack bends its branches downward for months at a time, and ice storms freeze its limbs into these jagged, dramatic angles.
So the goal is to recreate that.
Yes. The expert's goal here is to simulate that windswept look. It's often called the Fukinagashi style. You're repositioning the wood structure to reflect a tree that has survived harsh elements over decades.
But wait, how does the tree actually survive that process?
What do you mean?
Well, if you're taking a branch that wants to grow up, wrapping it in metal, and basically cranking it downward to simulate heavy snow, why doesn't the branch just snap off and die?
Ah, that is where the incredible precision of the workshop comes into play. The masters monitor you carefully as you learn to wrap the specialized aluminum wire at very specific 45-degree angles along the branch.
The 45-degree angle isn't just an aesthetic tradition, is it?
Not at all.
I imagine it has to do with distributing the physical force so you don't crush the living parts of the tree.
It is pure physics and biology working together. Right beneath the outer bark of the branch is the cambium layer.
The cambium layer.
Yes, this is a microscopic, ultra-thin layer of living tissue that transports water and nutrients between the roots and the leaves. If you damage the cambium, that branch will die.
Oh, wow. So there's no margin for error.
Very little. Wrapping the wire at exactly 45 degrees provides the optimal distribution of tension. If the angle is too shallow, the wire acts like a loose spring and won't have enough grip to hold the branch in its new position.
That makes sense.
But if the angle is too steep, say, wrapping it almost straight around like a tourniquet, it puts intense localized pressure on the bark and will literally crush the cambium layer, strangling the branch.
Okay, so the wire really acts as a supportive exoskeleton.
Yeah.
You are distributing the force evenly across the branch, which allows you to gently bend the wood.
Precisely.
And inside the branch, the structural fibers, the lignin and cellulose, are undergoing microscopic fractures.
Yes.
Over the next several months, the tree will heal those microfractures, laying down new wood cells in the new shape. And then, once the branch sets into that windswept angle, but before the wire starts to bite into the growing bark, the master will carefully remove the metal.
You've got it. You are learning how much pressure a living branch can take before it breaks. You are learning how to coax nature into a specific dramatic narrative without compromising the health of the subject.
That's amazing.
It is a very delicate, intimate dance.
I can completely understand why this is a 90-minute limit.
Yeah.
I mean, when you factor in the sheer mental processing required, analyzing the front of the tree, digesting wabi-sabi, manipulating growth hormones with irreversible cuts, and then mathematically wrapping aluminum wire to simulate centuries of alpine weather without crushing the cambium layer.
It's intense.
Yeah, you're entirely consumed by the moment.
It requires a profound, immersive concentration. For that hour and a half, the noise of Tokyo, your travel itinerary, your emails, none of it exists. There is only the branch, the wire, and the space between the leaves.
Wow.
And because that level of focus is so demanding, the conclusion of the workshop is thoughtfully designed to bring you back down gently.
Which brings us to the grand finale, the sensory reward we promised you at the start.
Yes, the best part.
Once the physical labor is done, you put down the shears and the wire, you step away from the workbenches in the sunlit courtyard, and you transition indoors into a traditional Japanese tatami room.
The environmental contrast is just immediate and deliberate. You slip your shoes off and step onto the soft, woven tatami mats.
And I love that smell.
Oh, it's incredible. You're immediately hit with the subtle, earthy smell of the rush grass. The acoustics of the room change entirely. It becomes incredibly quiet. It is a complete sensory reset.
And this is where the masters introduce you to the art of tokonoma.
Yes, which is the traditional practice of alcove styling and display appreciation.
Right. For those who might not know, a tokonoma is a built-in recessed space in a traditional Japanese reception room. It's specifically designed as the focal point of the room for displaying items of artistic appreciation.
Correct.
So after all that intense focus and engineering, this is where your tree finally gets its spotlight.
Yes. But returning to the philosophy of wabi-sabi, the display is never just about the isolated object. It is about the harmony of the entire scene.
Right. Context matters.
Exactly. The bonsai tree is the main subject, but the manners will guide you in presenting your newly styled miniature tree alongside other carefully curated elements. This typically includes a hanging calligraphy scroll and an accent stone known as suseki.
So it is essentially curating your own tiny, perfectly balanced art exhibition. The elements have to converse with each other.
They absolutely do. If you've shaped your tree to look like a windswept alpine survivor, the master might help you select a calligraphy scroll featuring a poetic phrase about a mountain storm.
Oh, that's brilliant.
And then the suseki accent stone positioned below it might naturally resemble a distant, rugged mountain peak. Together, the scroll, the stone, and your tree tie the whole aesthetic narrative together.
It forces a massive shift in perspective, doesn't it?
It really does. For the previous 90 minutes, you were inches away from the bark, hyper-focused on millimeter-level cuts and precise 45-degree wire angles. Now you are invited to sit back on the tatami mat and observe the macro perspective.
You are finally able to see the harmony, the negative space, and the simulated passage of time that you engineered with your own hands.
And as you are sitting there on the tatami, taking in the visual harmony of the tokonoma, we reach the ultimate payoff.
The workshop finishes with a traditional Japanese tea ceremony. You are served a bowl of fresh matcha green tea right there in the room.
It is such a beautiful, grounding ritual to conclude the experience. The thick, frothy matcha has a very distinct, earthy bitterness to it.
Which is traditionally contrasted by a small, delicate wagashi sweet served alongside the bowl, right?
Exactly. The physical warmth of the tea and the balance of bitter and sweet serve to anchor you in the present moment, bringing the entire masterclass to a serene, complete close.
You start the afternoon as a traveler looking for something to do in Edogawa Ward, and you walk away with this tactile, biological, and philosophical understanding of a centuries-old art form.
You literally shaped living wood under the guidance of elite masters.
Yeah. To have all of this facilitated with full English interpreter support makes an incredibly specialized, prestigious world completely accessible.
It is the defining difference between simply observing a culture from behind a velvet rope and actively participating in its deepest traditions. You leave with an altered perspective on nature, time, and patience.
Well, as we bring our time together today to a close, we want to remind you to visit the link in the description for the complete guide.
Yes, that guide will help you book this exact instant confirmation experience at the Shunkaen Bonsai Museum.
We want to thank you so much for listening and spending your time with us today. If you are planning a trip to Japan and want to discover more incredible, authentic experiences like this one, we explicitly invite you to check out Rob's multi-award-winning travel planning website.
The resources available there are invaluable for anyone looking to build an itinerary that goes far beyond the surface level of travel.
Just use the link in the description to find it.